Hi, Michelle here. I thought that today I would show you 5 plants that were surprising to me in the month of June. I took a look at the plants I have in my cabinets and I took some of them out, and some of them surprised me with their growth. Some of them were kind of buried deep behind other plants, and so I wasn't really able to see all of the growth that I was able to see in some of my other plants. So when I pull them out, I got kind of a pleasant surprise. So let's go ahead and get to the first plant. The first plant is my globulosa. I've had this plant for about 18 months now. It came to me as a 1-node, 2-leaf cutting, and I rooted it in water, and then I had it in leca for a while, and about, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago I transferred it to pond. Since I transferred it to pond, it really started growing. It grew this tendril, which became long enough for me to wrap around a trellis. Now I know that globulosa is normally not wrapped around a trellis because the stem is so thick, but it is quite pliable, so it is able to wrap around. I don't know if you can see this, if you can see these little leaves here. These little leaves here are yellow, so it does look like that the growth is not going to survive. There are some leaves right here, and it does not, they are kind of yellow, so the growth may not survive. So as you can tell, there may be some residual damage to the stem by folding it over. However, the plant has produced this new growth point that will produce new leaves, and it's also produced so many leaves because of the stem being folded over and this stem being exposed to the light, such as these leaves right here. There are new leaves behind here. This whole stem right here is new since I wrapped the trellis around, and it produced these really beautiful large leaves that are very glossy, very dark green, very large. And ever since then, that new growth point that occurred since I wrapped the original stem around has produced very healthy leaves, very dark, very fuzzy leaves on the back. So it turned out to be a very good thing. Now this is planted in a 5-inch self-watering pot in pond, and as you can see, the roots are quite healthy. So because of the new growth, my first Hoya that surprised me this month was my Hoya globulosa. The second plant that surprised me this month is my Hoya lackinosa inner variegated. This plant came to me, I'm gonna see if I can show you the delineation where the plant I got started. There is a line right there where the plant was where I got it, and these leaves have grown since I've got it. What surprised me this month was that I took this Hoya, I took it out of my dectal cabinet, which is right over here out of frame, which is a lower light cabinet, and I put this in my cabinet right behind me on this second shelf which is a very high light shelf. The shelf is only about 4 inches above the grow light. And since I did that, it started producing these very large leaves. And they are also very highly variegated. I don't know if you can see them all, but they're all very highly variegated. It also started producing this cluster of new leaves and new growth right here and right here. So when I pulled this out, now it has 2 new growth points. There's a growth point right here, and there's a growth point right here. So this has really grown a lot in the month that I've had it in the Millsbo cabinet in the highlight area. So this is really surprising me. This is a very interesting Hoya. It's very thin-leaved. It is not a very sturdy Hoya. The older leaves are more sturdy. The new leaves are still quite fresh because they are growing so fast. So the second Hoya that impressed me this month is my Hoya lackinosa intervariegated. The third plant that surprised me this month is not actually a plant, it's a cutting. It's a clemencyorm cutting. This cutting has an interesting history. It started out as a 1-leaf cutting. It started out originally as this 1 leaf. The plant was rooted. It was in cocoa husk. It grew for me. I had it in my Millsbo behind me on the top shelf. It grew a straight stem up. It had 4 leaves. 1 fell off, so it had a total of 5 leaves. Then I took it outside while I was doing one of my very first YouTube videos. And I took it outside, and I had it outside in the desert sun for about 20 minutes. And that was all it took. It got sunburn. The leaves turned brown. Yellow, giant burn spots. 2 of the leaves fell off. I had to take cuttings of it. All I was able to save was the bottom cutting and the top leaf. I gave the top leaf to my daughter for her birthday. She was always wanting a clemencyorm. I took this bottom cutting and I rooted it in water. It's been rooting for about, I would say, 4 or 5 weeks now. And it's really good. But what surprised me this month was not the rooting, but it's this growth point that's on the clemencyorm. Normally clemencyorms are supposed to be very slow growers. This plant is still rooting. It's not planted in substrate, but yet it still has a new growth point with, if you can see this, actual leaf points. That's very surprising to me. I'm very pleased that it is bouncing back so fast. I hope that the cutting I gave my daughter, which is a top cutting, I hope that bounces back for her too. It's been a little slower to root than this one. I'm not really for sure why. It's a larger leaf. This is 2 smaller leaves. But this one has been doing really well. And the third plant to surprise me this month is my Hoya clemencyorm cutting. The fourth plant to surprise me this month is one of my favorites, and I can't even get it all in the shot. What this is my nervosa. This is a Hoya that means a lot to me because I received this as a small unrooted cutting in 2019 when I really didn't know anything about Hoyas, and I really didn't know anything about rooting Hoyas. And this Hoya taught me so much about how to grow Hoyas, how to root Hoyas, how to troubleshoot Hoyas, how to start Hoyas over when problems happen. This Hoya is a good case in point. This is started over, literally. This is cuttings in a pot. I had encountered root mealies, so I had to take cuttings. I think there are 1, 2, 3, 4, I think there are 5 cuttings in this pot. And since I did that, they have grown all of these new tendrils, including new leaves such as this. So I have this new tendril, I have this new tendril with this new leaf, I have this new leaf growing, I have this new tendril with these 2 new leaves. It's got a node here where 2 new leaves knocked off, and it looks like that the tip died, so I may or may not cut that off to spur new growth from this node, to have a new growth point grow from this node. Up top here, there is this new growth point which has this node right here, but there's nothing going on it. And then, even surprisingly, unfortunately, this leaf has developed burn because it is literally, as you can see, right up against the light, and I feel desiccation right here, so this is literally burning. So I need to move this immediately. But even as it's jammed up against the light, it has this tendril which at the node takes almost a 90-degree bend and goes up here, and there's a node here, there's a node here that actually has leaves forming, if I can bend it down, because it's got leaves forming, and then it's got a growth tip at the end. So this plant is really surprising me with all of the new growth it's put out since I transferred it just from the very top shelf in my Mills bow to cutting it into smaller pieces, rerooting it into a 5-inch pot with pon, and it's just really grown. Take a look at the roots. These are what the roots look like. As you can see, I have wicks in here, but they have grown through the wicks. So the plant looks very healthy. Let me tuck this root back in. So the 4th plant to surprise me this month is my Hoya nervosa. The 5th and final plant to surprise me this month is this plant. I believe I was pronouncing it wrong. I do believe that the pronunciation for this, it's not vitilinoides, it's vitilinoides. Miro from Basie Plants pronounces it vitilinoides, and I will definitely follow his pronunciation because he knows a lot more than I do. The reason I am naming this one of my surprising Hoyas for the month of June is also because this is a cuttings Hoya. As you can see, I restarted this plant. I took it into cuttings. There are 4 cuttings in here. And when I did that, I also put it in a D12 cabinet, which is right over here off frame. And it is a lot dimmer. It still gets natural light from the windows behind me, but it does not have Barina T5 lights like the Mills bow does. Since you can see the difference, this is a leaf the size of a leaf that was in the Mills bow. This is the size of a leaf in the Mills bow that grew in the Mills bow. These are the size of the leaves that grew in the D12. This one is the most surprising of all. I don't even know if I can get it all in frame. It is over 11 inches long. It stretches from back there all the way to right there. So there's this one. There's this one and this one and this one back here and these underneath here. What surprised me this month was that it grew this tendril, which unfortunately the leaves dropped from this node. It got bumped, but it grew this tendril that grew these two new leaves. And although they were not as large as the other ones, I do believe that's because this vine is loose. It is not attached to the trellis, and I do believe that if this stem was attached to the trellis, it would have grown a lot larger because it would have had support. This vine is also very new. This is extremely new. This happened in the last few days. Also in the last month. Well, I should say that since this has been cut, this whole stem is new. This was the tip as it ended. It ended in this basically dead vine. But what happened was after I repotted it, it grew this leaf here, and it grew this entire stem with all of these leaves, as you can see. And it's still growing. The tip is still active. This has got tremendous growth, tremendous large growth. Every time I open the cabinet and kind of dig it out of the back, I see another new large leaf peeking out from this giant leaf. A lot of these leaves are still very soft to the touch because they are still fresh. That one really impressed me when I pulled it out and I got to take a really close look at it. There we have it for today. Those are 5 Hoyas that I took a look at in my cabinets and that really surprised me for various reasons, mostly because of the growth they produced this month. It seems like these Hoyas this month decided that where there's a will, there's a way, and I'm going to want to grow, and so I'm going to grow. Sometimes, I don't know if you're like this, but I have Hoyas like that. I have a Hoya right now that is just 2 leaves. It's a 2-leaf cutting. It's been a 2-leaf cutting since I got it 6 months ago. There's no growth points, there's no growth nubs, there's no nothing. The cutting is rooted, there's no root rot, there's no pests, there's no anything, but it just won't grow. And I do believe that's actually the first Hoya I've encountered that just won't grow under any conditions I gave it. And I know that there are a lot of Hoyas like that, that just, if you don't figure out the exact right conditions, they do not respond. Fortunately for me, this month, these 5 Hoyas responded very well to the conditions I gave them. I really appreciate you joining me today and taking a look at these plants with me and kind of going over what I think makes them special. I really hope you liked this video. If you do, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see other content like this, please consider subscribing to my channel. It would really help me out a lot. I am new to plant YouTube. I am not new to YouTube. I've had other videos for other things. I would like to continue to do this, but I would like to know what you as the viewer are wanting to see. So please list anything, any comments, any suggestions in the comments below. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join me. Have a great day. Bye.